Hey guys, I am Ibigandscary. I'm bringing you another StarCraft 2 replay, this time featuring RoChan in the top left corner playing our red Zerg, and in the bottom right we have Nyancat playing our blue Terran. Nyancat I believe is in Diamond, RoChan I assume is in Diamond. Maybe they're playing against friends because Nyancat's given off the I am Terran, so he's probably playing random, which is not something you typically do on ladder. And you also typically don't tell the opponent what race you are, so that leads me to assume that they are friends. Nyancat and RoChan are playing on Antigua Shipyard, which is, I believe, still part of the ladder pool, even though it's one of the older maps. Larger ramp leading down to the easy to hold natural, because it has its own large ramp leading down to the common ground, kind of divvied up by this little chasm here, making it so that surrounds are a bit harder to get, but it's still wide enough that it's not unheard of. You can definitely wall off this area, though it takes substantially more buildings than it does up here, but it still favors that two-base play. The third base is a little bit more exposed than most people would like, particularly because of destructible debris can open up a secondary pathway into it, kind of making it so it's just a little bit too weak. It's a little bit exposed, but it's still there, and it's a pretty short distance away from the base, the natural, which means that it's easy to reinforce, even if it is easy to harass. And then the worst part about it, for this map at least, not in this scenario, is that this is sometimes the main base of an opponent, and if you're expanding to your natural third, then close by air, it takes on a whole new meaning because it's just absolutely terrible. Fortunately, the spawns are cross spawns, so we're not worried about that. No one's expanding towards the opponent. I guess Nyancat will be expanding a little bit more towards him than RoChan, but in reality, it's all pretty much the same because these maps are mirrored. RoChan is grabbing a spawning pool after his hatch first, not unheard of on the size of this map against Terran. We do have Nyancat grabbing his first racks and a refinery. It looks like this is just shaping up to be a totally normal match. We got the typical gas for Nyancat. He's getting that up so he can get his own mechanics, his own upgrades. Of course, right when I say that, he throws down his first hatchery, so or his first factory, not to be confused with a hatchery, which is just now finishing for RoChan. So that first factory tells me that this is probably going to be a Hellion harass, popular on a map of this size. Hellions so good at closing the rush distance by ground between the two bases and really abusing Zerg whenever they try to take a bunch of bases. This theory is probably going to get confirmed in a couple seconds by that reactor, there we go, on the barracks. So great, Reactor Hellions, a fun build to watch because it requires some early micro, but it's not designed to win the base, though, to win the match right then and there. It's designed to put the Zerg a little bit behind himself, a little bit on the back foot, particularly if they take a third. But it looks like RoChan's going to be sending out his Zerglings just to scout. He's got an Overlord in good position, but the factory right by the door is not going to get scouted by that Overlord, even if it suicides in. Nyancat grabbing his own command center. RoChan's not making any motions like he wants to do it yet, but he's definitely got the money to grab that third. I think he's just going to be working on his saturation for now, but I would not be surprised if we don't see a third in our future shortly. That won't be good news for him because these Hellions are just now getting started. They're about halfway done now. Once they get out on the field, if there is a third for RoChan, he's definitely going to have to think twice about saturating it and exposing those drones. But looks like just a little bit of an exchange right now. That Zergling scouts the barracks on low ground and also scouts the two Hellions coming out. These Hellions are going to have a time of getting into the main base because we have two more Queens popping out. And even though these Hellions are speedy fast, only 18 seconds for those Queens to pop out. So they should be arriving at the same time as those Queens. Good Overlord placement by RoChan. Got one checking out the gas drop place and another Overlord on his own front door. Only has one down by the main base, but he, if you're looking at the mini-map, has a Zergling posted by the third, just in case Nyancat is feeling frisky. He is feeling frisky with these Hellions. And you see what I did there? He's a cat, and he's feeling frisky. I hope you guys appreciate my brilliance, because I do. Alright, back to the Hellions. 4 Hellions now on the front door. Nyancat's probably thinking about making some more shenanigans. Maybe he'll wait for the other 2 round to pop in. I'll be watching the mini-map just in case while we're talking about the other 2 factories that are being built in his main base. He's grabbed another gas, no gas down at the natural quite yet, but off of 2 gas you can afford 3 factories depending on what you build. With the reactor, it's only going to be Hellions coming out of the one, but a tech lab on the other, probably a tech lab on the third, means that we will be seeing a ground-based mech play, which is always fun because it's such a slow and ponderous build that the Zerg can kind of abuse, but the Terran mech is just so strong. So 6 Hellions make it into the main base, start frying workers. At the start of this, we had about 50 drones, down to 44 right now. The Queen's slowly catching up to the Hellions. They've definitely whittled down a lot of their health. One guy with only 1 dies health, but they've succeeded in doing so much damage. 21 workers killed already. That is absolutely ridiculous. These Hellions are definitely paying for themselves, and the saturation is so far down. 200 minerals mined per minute over the 1400. Certainly Nyancat could expect a little bit of lead because he's Terran, he's got the mules, but the lead of this just substantial margin is really ridiculous. He's got to be feeling pretty good about himself, even with the last of those Hellions going down. The unit slots tab will show you that that was incredibly cost effective for Nyancat. RoChan is getting 12 more harvesters out, which will help to even up that count. Not necessarily in his favor quite yet, but shortly he will have caught up. But you never really want to catch up. You want to stay in the lead. 2 more geysers for Nyancat. He's beginning to get those siege tanks out. One of them working on that tech lab. Another 2 factories coming down. It looks like RoChan is going to be sending in his Overlord just to scout to confirm that indeed it is a ground-based mech play. You really don't want to see just a single factory with a reactor and then like 8 starports right next to it. That would be the worst thing in the world for him. But this is just confirming that it's a ground-based mech play. No upgrades out quite yet, but the Infernal Pre-Igniter is beginning, as is a starport, just to get out some Vikings for some anti-air, as ground-based mech play is pretty lacking in anti-air until those Thors can get out. Of course, you can also get medevacs out to do a drop play, but a drop play with anything besides Hellions is really not very useful, and the only base that you do a drop play on is the main, which is really exposed as it is, so I'm betting Vikings are pretty much the only thing going to come out of that starport. 1-1, halfway done for RoChan, as is the Glial Reconstitution. I believe that is the Zerg Speed. So Roach is not going to be a terrible choice. Really going to be a strong answer against the Hellions. Going to have an issue against the siege tanks, but still a good choice. This Overlord just does not care. He sees absolutely everything. He probably knows that a Viking is going to be coming out any second now, but he couldn't care less. He's getting some excellent scouting information, sees exactly what type of units are being produced, being rallied over. Doesn't quite catch that the Hellions are moving out with their Infernal Pre-Igniter now done for another round of harassment, but he does know what to expect in the coming minutes, and those Roaches, 9 of them on the way right now, are definitely going to help. 2 armories down at the main base, upgrades in mass for those ground-based mech play to be expected. They also should expect these Roaches. Infernal Pre-Igniter, Hellions, not going to be the best choice in the world against buildings, but they'll definitely punish this expansion. Not going to be able to take down the 9 Roaches, but they will be able to take down a bunch of drones if they can make it into the main. And with their speed, I mean, look how fast they are. What is their speed? 4.25 against the 3, and that's after the upgrade. And when they're reinforced by siege tanks, this can be an intimidating mix. Just 3 siege tanks, probably not going to be able to stop this mass of Roaches, but it all comes down to positioning when siege tanks are confirmed. And this placement of the siege tanks is really just to deny RoChan the opportunity to deny the third. He wants to take out that gold expand, which is really ballsy by RoChan. Oh, what a great play right there. RoChan sending a single RoChan to draw the fire from the siege tank so the other ones can come in a ball and not take all the splash damage. That is a great play. And then targeting down the siege tanks, which are doing massive damage in favor of targeting down the Hellions. So yeah, really good play by RoChan right there. Nice to push them back. He's not going to press his advantage, even though Hellions are the only thing up right now. 4 siege tanks rolling out, so probably a good idea not to push into the third. which he's going to do now. And he loses a ridiculous amount of roaches as a result. Those siege tanks getting a nice position there. He's got to know that this third is up, or at least in the works. Mules are going to be dropped there. Really just a massive influx of minerals, I'm sure, in just a couple of seconds. Right now, 71 to 60 harvesters. But yeah, there goes those mules. 600 point jump for Nyancat, and he's going to use all those minerals for the Lord knows what. I mean, Hellions take only minerals, and they're very helpful against weak units, but right now, RoChan is favoring heavily the roaches. He's got a Spire working right now, which is a great choice because Corruptors will be able to deny the air superiority from the Terran because they're pretty good against Vikings. And then once he gets that air superiority, Broodlords will be able to tear up anything on the ground because Terran mech is very weak against the air, as I mentioned. Nyancat succeeds in pushing back and taking back the watchtower. Siege tanks are going to be raining down fire, just demolishing that fourth at the high yield mineral line. We knew that that was short-lived. Really, RoChan only did that to get gas, which is right now the limiting factor of his build. It's what he needs most if he's going to go air. He's got Hive finishing right now, so Greater Spire once the Spire pops. But he's got to be worried about Nyancat right now with this slow push of all these siege tanks. RoChan's going to have to either take out a large chunk of the siege tanks or demolish all of the Hellions one way or another, leaving those siege tanks very exposed. RoChan doesn't want this third to get up and running, but it already is. It's kind of a lost battle right now, so RoChan either needs to grab a fourth and keep it, or push out with an all-in short order. Either way, the onus is on him to make something happen. He can't allow this siege tank line to last for very long. Good scan. Right down on the creep, those Hellions picking off a couple of the creep tumors. Really want that to recede so that the siege tanks don't get caught unawares. Greater Spire about halfway done for RoChan. 5 Corruptors on the way. Hopefully he uses those Corruptors to take out the Vikings before he brings out Broodlords. I've seen people morph all of their Corruptors into Broodlords and then move them out without killing the Vikings, just expecting them to disappear or be ashamed or something like that, and it did not end well for them. You see, level 2 armor. Have we gotten the level 1 range? So 2-2 finishing up for RoChan. What are the armors? 1-1 for the siege tanks. We got 2-2 just now beginning, as well as the first Thors underway. Thors will really supplement the Terran mech, giving it some much needed anti-air capabilities. 5 Vikings against 5 Corruptors. Probably going to come out with the Corruptors' favor. Some good micro from Nyancat though. Superior range from the Vikings, making it so that with proper micro, those Vikings can take care of those Corruptors. They also do additional damage against armor. Good big push right here by Nyancat, right on the basement of the third. Hellions kind of overextending themselves though. Oh, and the siege tanks get caught completely unawares, not sieged at all. Some massive splash damage on their own units. All but 4 of the siege tanks going down almost instantly. Hellions are still alive, but it looks like only 2 of the Vikings remain with 3 Broodlords on the way. Whoa, more than 3 Broodlords, a lot back up by the main. So 6 Broodlords, 7 Broodlords, 7 Broodlords pushing in, going to push Nyancat all the way back, and the third remains completely unscathed. Big win, perfect timing for RoChan. He really needed that to happen, and mind you, these the Vikings are completely free to destroy all these Broodlords. There's no Corruptors on the field currently. There were a couple just now popping, but with only 2 Vikings on the ground and 2 more underway, the anti-air on both sides is pretty lacking. It's really what to keep an eye on. The Thors on the field will have a difficult time targeting down the Corruptors as long as RoChan stays smart. But it looks like the first volley got off for RoChan, so he's going to take down the Viking, leaving 1 Corruptor alive. And the Broodlords succeed in pushing back the siege tanks and the Thors. Another wave of Vikings arrive on scene, begin to target down those Broodlords, and you can just see how quickly they fall with just a handful of Vikings targeting them down, and their units are so expensive. Another wave of Corruptors coming, and this is really where the battlefield is being waged, is in the air. Yeah, ground looks really smart and sexy and all that stuff, but the most damage is being done that really counts is being done in the air. Every one of those Broodlords that go down can really take a toll on those siege tanks, and the Vikings are basically everything that Nyancat has to defend in the air. Same time, both players are taking the high yield expansions in the middle of the map, while RoChan is deciding to grab 2 more expansions in the top right corners, all of which are fully functional, if not mining. He's just waiting to be mined out in his main fully before he begins to transfer over units. I mean, he's got to be oversaturated somewhere. Oh, he's just long distance mining down in the rich mineral fields. But Nyancat has control of the center watchtower, a lot of Thors, not a lot of siege tanks, but he could definitely afford to take out that high yield expansion before it gets fully operational. And that looks like he's done that now. He's got his siege tanks in position. He's going to be targeting down those drones before he's moving on to the structures. Handful of broodlords in the air, 3 more on the way, a lot of corruptors. I think RoChan has stumbled upon a good unit composition to deal with this. He's definitely lost the ground-based battle, but as long as he keeps control of the air and begins to put his corruptors in the front line to absorb some of the javelin shots from the Thors, these broodlords are going to be able to take down the Thors and then move on to the siege tanks and the Hellions, which really are useless against this heavy air-based Zerg play. The Vikings begin to stream in, though. 4 more on the way. It looks like Nyancat has gotten several more Stargates on the field. The broodlords are decimating. The Thor count's completely gone. The siege tanks are beginning to pull back. But the high yield expansion on the south side of the center is completely up. Oh, wow. Look at all those broodlords being morphed in. What type of infrastructure does Nyancat have to answer back to this? 3 starports fully just going crazy on the Viking production. He knows that he's got to take care of this shenanigans that's going on in the middle of the map. Every one of those broodlords that gets morphed is one less corruptor, so the corruptor count is significantly smaller than what it needs to be right now. No corruptors on the way. There goes 7 more. So RoChan knows that he's going to have to deal with another huge wave. How many to how many is the question. 8 corruptors to 13 Vikings, heavily in Nyancat's favor. Oh, but those broodlords are so tough, and they just rain down fire very, very quickly. Looks like there's enough Vikings to one-shot those broodlords. The corruptors coming in, making their presence known, doing their corruptibility on the Vikings. Very effective, not quite in the killing as much as it is keeping the broodlords free to rain fire down. But now that the corruptor count has fallen drastically, those broodlords have to retreat. It looks like only 5 of them remaining, but 11 corruptors coming out to join the battle, just beginning to stream in from all sorts of different expansions, really going back and forth. Look at this. This is a 100% air battle. This is crazy. No Thors joining in, but we do see 6 more Vikings on the way. What type of air upgrades? None for either side. All the broodlords have fallen. 13 more corruptors, though, out. Looks like RoChan is trying to grab that high yield expansion once again, but is just failing. It's going to go down. It looks like the Vikings have landed, and the ground-based play is limited only to siege tanks back in the main, guarding the natural. Oh, got to be careful with all of those drones in the air. They're very weak against the constant fire from the Vikings, and this bundle of Vikings is very effective at picking off the corruptors, which seem to just be collecting over on the 4th. Looks like that's where all of them are rallied. A lot of roaches being rallied in also, with the Thors basically done in their production, and it looks like only siege tanks and Vikings being produced at the moment. Oh, huge run by with the Hellions. It looks like it's absolutely decimated that expansion. I completely missed it because I'm just enamored with all these Vikings. But remember, he's got a 3rd and his 4th still mining for RoChan. Looks like the natural and the main are both completely mined out for Nyancat. He's only on his 3rd. He's trying to grab that 4th. Oh, and of course he's got the high yield, which has been untouched for this entire time. I should mention that. Looks like the corruptors are getting a little bit confused, trying to follow the Vikings rather than fire back. But there's just so many Vikings right now. Look at that, 14 Vikings. No corruptors out on the field now. It looks like RoChan is transitioning back to a ground-based play, but these roaches are just going to get eaten alive by all the siege tanks that remain. RoChan, GG's out as the Vikings swoop in. They were going to land and just decimate this probe line too, leaving with RoChan just 1 base. And then Nyancat had the high yield, and he also had this guy being built. So it was a good tap out from RoChan. It was a really good try too. I guess just that air superiority is where he lost it, not having enough corruptors to deal with the Vikings and then just being outproduced by those Vikings later on. It was a very smart play by Nyancat to double down on the Viking production, not try to do it off of one starport, but getting the additional 2, and then realizing that the Thors were only being minorly effective with that build and transitioning only over to the Viking production. That was good. Hey, if you guys have any comment about the build order, I'd love to hear from you. Or if you have a game you want me to cast, that'd be cool too. You could PM me here or on Reddit. One way or another, I will see you guys later. I am Big and Scary.